thank you so much for joining our NBJ Live today, State of Natural. We recently launched a brand new NBJ report, so we're going to talk about that today. Here joining me, I have Erika, who is the Market Research Analyst for NBJ, as well as Robyn Lawrence, Senior Editor at Nutrition Business Journal. So Robyn, Erika, thank you so much for being here, and thanks again. It's so nice to see all of our natural products supplement industry friends here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Great to be here.
So Erika, let's get started. I know you're going to share a little bit of the data from this report, and then we want to open it up to questions. So please, anyone who's here, listening, watching, pop your questions in the chat, and we'll make sure that we spend time on those. Anything that comes up throughout Erika's presentation. And then I, of course, have plenty of questions for you as well. So yeah, let's jump in.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. Yes. So we typically like to start these off with a little bit of data. So I will go ahead and get started on that. And pretty much how I want to start this conversation off is really starting off at high level, right? So I'll start with high level and then we'll get into some more of the category specifics afterwards. So this is the total natural and organic product industry sales and growth. So we are, for this report, just capturing that 2019 to 2024 timeframe. And for those of you who might not be familiar with NBJ charts, I just want to quickly tell you how to read this. So in those green bars are going to be historic sales. And then in the gray bars are going to be our forecasted sales or our estimates. And then that yellow line is going to be growth. So on the left axis there, you see sales. Those are in millions. So that would read as all the way at the top, 350 billion. And then on the right is growth. So basically how I want to position this. So for this report, we're in the process of making these numbers finalized, but for now we have a P at the end of 2023. So that's preliminary. So it's a little bit more of a forecasted for current than an E would. E is more of an estimate, and P is more for an educated data backing it. So for pretty much from 2013 to 2023, I love this point about the total industry. I think it puts it into really great perspective from, where we were in 2013 to where we were in 2023. So the industry doubled in size and reached about $301.8 billion in 2023. So how incredible, right? I mean, so much has happened from 2013 to 2023, and we really just saw so much growth. And, back then, there were a lot of growth drivers that we saw, and we're going to get in and talk a little bit about what we're seeing is driving that growth today. But there's some differences and some similarities. So it's really interesting to see how far we've come, and I'm really excited to see how far it will go into the future as well. So we do see that growth is dropped a little bit in 2021. Of course, we're going to see market corrections after such high growth was experienced everywhere in 2020, but we're going to see that start to come back up in 23 and in 24 as well. So this is basically what we just saw in terms of industry, but I want to go ahead and just break it out by product category. So biggest chunk of the natural products industry is, of course, that natural, organic, and functional food and beverage category at about almost 70%, 69.4%, followed by 21.1% of dietary supplements, and then 9.5% for natural living. So natural living, we categorize that as natural and organic personal care items, so beauty, soaps, lotion, cosmetics, as well as natural and organic household items, so cleaning solutions, and this includes pet food or animal care as well. Now, getting into those product categories. So specifically for this report, I know in the previous slide it said natural, organic, functional food and beverage, but for this, I wanted to call out the natural, it said natural, organic, functional food, and for this, it's just natural and organic food and beverage. So the reason that we did this was that we could really break it down into subcategory for this. So for example, we have dairy, snacks, condiments, etc. And then that way we can see what's really growing within this category. So total natural and organic food and beverage grew at about 4.2% in 2023. And really what we saw was that most of that growth was led by snack foods in 2023. So again, overall picture, we saw it dip a little bit in 21, up again in 22, back down a little bit in 23. So a little bit of a roller coaster, but nothing crazy. You know, we still stayed around that 2 to 4% growth rate, and then anticipating it to go back up into 24 as well. So most of a common theme we're seeing is that a lot of the increases in growth within 22 and 23 was led by price, led by increase in prices, is not as much volume, but we're actually anticipating that in 24, there's going to be more of that volume increase. So it'll be interesting to follow that. Now, going on to the next category, we have supplements. So this is NBJ's bread and butter. I could talk about this for hours, but I will not for today. So for supplement sales and growth, so basically what we saw in 22 was a huge market correction, happened a little bit quicker than we were originally anticipating, but we saw growth go down to about 1.2 in 2022, and we're estimating around 3.9% in 2023 to about a $63.5 billion market. And a lot of growth that's leading this category is, of course, sports nutrition and that active lifestyle category. And then on to, excuse me, natural living. So again, just want to define what we include in natural living, that personal care and household items. And we're actually seeing, when you're looking at those different categories that make up that natural products industry, that it's leading growth, right? So we saw about 4.2 for food and beverage, 3.9 for supplements, and we're seeing about 5.5% growth for natural living. It's a much smaller piece of the pie, so that growth means a little bit different for that, but it's still really, really cool to see that consumers are really starting to enter that space a lot more, and really caring a lot more about what they use in their beauty products and personal care products and household items. So we saw it dip a little bit in 2022, and then we're also anticipating that to go increase more into the future with more product innovations and more offerings, and really that awareness continuing to increase. That is all of the data points I have for the PowerPoint presentation. And I wanted to just go ahead and put this QR code up here. So if you're interested in learning more about the report, I wanted to go ahead and put this here. So it's a nice, easy screen grab for you. And if you're interested in looking up any more information, you can go ahead and do that. But we're going to keep talking about, what we thought was interesting. And I know Jess has some burning questions. So I would love to give it back to her, and then we can bring Robyn in as well.
Well, thank you so much, Erika. Yes, you know me well. They are burning questions.
Yes.
Always questions. And yeah, I'm just so excited about the report. You did such a great job of giving us a snapshot of what's happening in the natural and organic product industry across categories, which I know is one of the main objectives of us digging in and presenting the industry with this type of report and this LinkedIn Live. So let's maybe give people a little bit of a behind the scenes look at the why behind this report from NBJ, and maybe a little bit of a sneak peek kind of the behind the scenes look at some of the making of it. Like, what exactly did it entail to be able to capture what's happening in the entire industry and what we can expect next? So I don't know which of you wants to take that first.
I'll let Robyn go.
Okay. Well, this was just such a fun report to work on, because there were so many different pieces and people and everything else that went into it. So I got to really kind of tie together a whole bunch of little, just from different pieces of the industry. So basically, what we really wanted to do with this was Carlotta Mast state keynote every year at Expo West. The State of Natural is such a highly anticipated and well attended and really beloved part of Expo West. And so what we wanted to do was bounce off of that and give people a little bit more in depth, somewhat different, and just, taking a closer look at what Carlotta and her guests said on stage. So I was able to work with Carlotta and, Catherine and and Nick, who were on stage with her talking about different things, Catherine from Spins, Nick from Whip Stitch Capital. And then I was able to work with Erika and her team on, the data and pulling that together. And so really, and then just really taking a look based on all of that at what were the trends that were emerging, both from the data and from what they were bringing to be talking about on stage. We also, there's a big, as anybody who was at the presentation or has watched it online knows, there was a big emphasis on Gen Z as the consumer of the future of the, really the consumer of 2030. So we also paid close attention to Gen Z in the report, and we're able to dig into that. We did consumer surveys, which Jessica can talk Erika can talk a little bit more about, but and then we were able to dice those up by generation so that we could really get a sense of in the numbers of what some of the more kind of emotional and qualitative stuff that June Joe, who the food ethnographer, who was also on stage with Carlotta, talked about.
I love it, Robyn. Thank you so much. And I would just build on that, having been involved in some of the trend identification and those other areas that kind of capture everything that we see at Natural Products Expo, as well as through our Nexty Awards and through trends coverage throughout the year. I think this report does a really amazing job of distilling some of those key trending areas within the industry as well. So that combination of things creates something that I think is extremely valuable. And I know we set out to produce something that would feel beneficial to anyone doing business in any category in the natural products industry. So it's been very exciting to see it come to life. And yeah, I would love to, Erika, have you maybe build a little bit on that consumer research piece as well, because having the market sizing married with those consumer insights is a really unique aspect of this report too.
Yeah, definitely. And when we were thinking about how to create it, originally it was just, let's just try to target natural and organic consumers, and then we'll try to get like a very general sense. And the more we started talking about it, we have these brainstorms, and it's one big group think, and everyone's like, "Ooh, I want to know about this, and what do we think about this?" And so it just like all these different ideas came together, and we're like, we really want a very specific survey for each part of the industry, right? So we have a survey specifically for natural and organic food and beverage consumers, those who always, often, or sometimes purchase those products. And then we use that same frequency to target those consumers for supplements as well, and then as well as those who purchase natural living products. So we're really getting a good grasp on what current consumers who are purchasing these products, what they want, how they feel, what are they trying to purchase for, what's important to them. And, that's really going to help brands and people who want to understand the industry of where we are and also think about where we're headed, right? You can kind of tell what people are thinking now, and you can kind of predict where you think it's going to go in the future. So I think that that's a really great part of this report, is that it's very focused and very targeted, and you're getting a really deep insight on each of those industries.
Yeah, definitely. And there are a lot of unique and exciting developments across categories that this report really illuminates. So I love that category by category approach and taking that approach with consumer insights as well. So thank you, Erika. And yeah, I guess I'd like to ask each of you, I know this is a hard question because there are so many valuable takeaways from the report, but Robyn, I'll start with you. What is your key takeaway from this entire report across categories, across the industry? What struck you as most compelling and the best indicator of the future of the CPG industry?
Well, and Erika kind of showed this with the numbers in her presentation, but, really the first headline that I wrote for the executive overview on this is, the state of the industry is promising. And there's just so much, after a couple of kind of rough years, we've had inflation, we had COVID before that, we had supply chain issues, it's just been so many little obstacles along the way. And despite these obstacles, this industry has grown and is continuing to grow. And as Erika showed, sales have doubled over the past 10 years. And so if you go back to 2007, they've tripled. And I think what's even more exciting perhaps than that is that growth is also accelerating. So from 2007 to 2013, there was 50 billion added to the overall industry, and between 2017 and 2023, there was 95 billion added. So it's almost doubled in those periods. And another super promising kind of data point that underscores this is that for the first quarter of 2024, we saw growth both in dollars and units sold, not just in dollars. So it wasn't only because of inflation that we're seeing the growth. So I think there's that. So there's a market sizing that's happening. We're also seeing the capital markets maturing. There's a whole bunch of exit strategies are starting to happen again. We're starting to see a lot of money starting to come back in. And so I just really think that the next couple of years are going to be super exciting.
Yes, I think we are all very happy to hear that from such an informed perspective. And yeah, I completely agree with you, Robyn. Erika, I'm curious, are your takeaways aligned with what Robyn just shared?
Yeah, and I want to try to keep it general too. There's so many really great Gen Z specific insights, but I want to keep it, for the whole industry. It's not only just Gen Z that's important. So when I think about top insight, I think it's kind of going back to similar what Robyn said in that, when we're looking at the financial outlook, so we actually asked consumers how they were doing financially. We've actually been asking this question within different NBJ reports, throughout 2022 and throughout 2023. And so we asked the question again, like, how are you doing financially and how was it compared to last year? So when compared to 2022, people are doing a lot better. And specifically, these younger consumers are doing much, much better. So when we asked this question in 2022, about 40% said that they were worse off when they were thinking about the difference between 2022 and 2021. That's a pretty big percentage, especially when you compare it to this year. Only 15% said that they were worse off. So it's really encouraging because I think, when we think about where we were this time last year, it was like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Like, it was a little bit of a panic feel, but this year, I mean, you could feel it at Expo, and we've seen it in the research, that doesn't really exist anymore. And so it's really, really encouraging to think about the future and to think about where we're going to be headed based on that.
Thank you. Thank you, Erika. And I want to take a quick moment to just pause for those who are just joining us. I do see quite a few people on this, which is so great, and from all different categories and parts of the industry represented here. So questions, please do share your questions in the chat. We would love to answer them and would love to just see some of the observations that you all have about what's happening in the industry and your part of the industry, because that's one of our favorite parts of Expo West, of course, is being able to connect with all of you, and we want to keep those conversations going. So please do put your questions or comments in the chat and we will get to those. Thanks, Erika and Robyn, for that. Now, I do want to get a little bit more specific because there was some great trend information in this report, and the trends are really a nice kind of manifestation of some of these bigger industry issues and topics. So Robyn, do you have one or two top trends that you wanted to highlight, whether in specific categories or for the CPG industry overall from this report?
Well, I think one of the things that stands out in all categories, and something that really surprised me, because I know for a long time it has, what we've seen is that consumers kind of see sustainability as admirable, but not really an imperative, right? And I really thought that would have changed more than it has. Like, that's still the case, even despite all of the headlines and the red coat alerts that we're getting about the climate. Really, the most important motivation for most consumers is still that they want to buy products that are good for themselves, for their personal health. And I think so. I think that, that kind of coupled with the huge interest in clean label as, just again, across all generations and across all categories, it really just speaks to brands needing to really continue to market to people, to the personal benefits, but also to the way we're starting to talk about some of the environmentally friendly trends or not or movements such as regenerative ag. So you're starting to see regenerative agriculture, they're starting to, instead of saying, hey, this is great and it's going to save the planet, it's starting to talk about, hey, there's greater nutrient density with these practices. And here's why it's, good for the planet, but also good for you. So I think that will continue to be just a really important part of marketing in all these categories.
Yeah, I agree with you, Robyn. It feels like that true connection between personal health and environmental health is sort of going to be the next wave, not only of marketing, but truly of measuring outcomes, measuring environmental outcomes as well as impacts on human health. So agree with that observation for sure. What about you, Erika? Any specific trends that are getting you really excited right now?
Yeah, I kind of have two, but they're also kind of related. So I'll kind of piggyback off of what Robyn said, talking about clean label. It was just so fascinating to me to see, how important it really is to these consumers. And, I would love to just take a step back because, right, like we asked natural and organic, product purchasers who frequently use them. So I would love to ask this with average consumers. But they really place a pretty high importance on clean label. But I think it's a step deeper of clean label. It's not just whatever people might think, but it's really about understanding the ingredients. People are fed up with, all these things on ingredient labels that they can't understand, and they're really paying attention and they want people to be transparent. And it's not necessarily, brand transparency. Obviously that's important too, but just being upfront with what you're putting on your label, and so that you can have a lot of education behind that as well. And so within that clean label, I think that it ties really nicely to what else we saw, which was organic. And by far, it was the most important certification throughout all the categories. So throughout natural and organic food and beverage, dietary supplements, and natural living, it just, the amount of importance that consumers are placing on it was just so much higher. It was for food and beverage, it was 26 percentage points higher than the next certification, which was non-GMO, which, I think that when you look at how this industry has really been built on organic and organic certifications, it's really cool to see how it's still so important, and the messaging has gotten a lot better and the consumer understanding has gotten a lot better. And really what's interesting is that we're seeing Gen Z, like it's much more important to Gen Z than it is to Gen X, and it's even a little bit more so than millennials. And it's just so interesting because when we were in a planning call talking about this, we were just talking about how Gen Z was really raised with organic being, obviously in some households, but being so common. And so that's why I think that a lot of this messaging is getting a lot better and resonating with people more, because they've just been around it longer, and it's a more normal product certification for them to purchase. So I think it's really promising, and it seems so basic, but it's really the foundation of the industry. So
Yeah, no, great point, Erika. And I have a follow-up question on that. And I just want to acknowledge Patrick. I see your question. I got you, and I'll get to that in 2 seconds. Erika, quick follow-up, because we have so many people across not just food and beverage on this LinkedIn Live, but also dietary supplements and personal care. Do we know if organic matters to these consumers across categories and specifically outside of food and beverage?
yeah, so within supplements also, it was still significantly higher than any other certification. So we did non-GMO as well, gluten-free, GMP certified, NSF certified, for those supplement specific products, and organic was still just by far much higher. And it's just so interesting to me because I don't always think of organic necessarily for like trends and supplements, but it really was pretty high placed importance for consumers when they're considering what products to purchase. and comparing them to those that would not be organic certified. So
yeah, that's
yeah.
great to know. And I think there's a call to action there. I've seen many more supplement companies investing in organic, but I still think there's so much more work to be done there. And the companies that are doing great work in organic agriculture and regenerative in supplements are really standing out. And it's clear that there's a demand there. So great insights. Thank you, Erika. And one of our questions from Patrick, thank you, was when Gen Z said that they felt worse off in 22 versus 21, do we know what that actually meant? Was it financially, physically, emotionally? What was that?
Yes, so it was financially. We were specifically asking for financially, but we also did a lot of research recently behind mood and mental health. That was what our last live was on. And so I think that there's also a lot within the mentally portion for them as well. But I mean, you have to think about where Gen Z started, kind of where COVID was going on. Of course, they're going to be better financially now because of where they started versus where we're at now. But it's just interesting to see the mentally piece as well. I think that they're doing better per se, but it's because they're talking about it more. So that's really interesting. And we could go down a huge rabbit hole talking about that, but I'll save that for another time.
I know. I wish we had more time because I too love the rabbit holes, and that would be
Yeah.
a good one. An upcoming NBJ Live, we will dig into that more. But thanks, Patrick, for your question. And everyone, be like Patrick. Put a question in the chat because we are here to answer.
Be like Patrick.
Be like Patrick. Okay, Robyn, question back to you. And I know we just have a few more minutes, so maybe we think about the future and look at the Gen Z research. Obviously, that's a big indicator of where things are going. And if we look at that combined with the market sizing, do you have a prediction of, you mentioned some of it around sustainability and changing there, but anything else that, especially from the Gen Z research, struck you as an indicator of where things will be over the course of the next year or even a 3 to 5 year lens?
Well, I think a couple of things. I think the biggest thing that really overall, and it's one of the trends we write about in the report, is kind of the non-binary aspect of this generation. They refuse to be labeled. They were the least likely to care about certifications. The institutions are not what speak to them. They're looking for authenticity, and they're looking for authenticity not to be part of something, but to be their own selves, right? So, you don't have to be a vegan to drink cashew milk. They're kind of, shoring up the non-alcoholic trend, but you don't have to be sober to be enjoying the mocktails. And they're kind of the ones who are flocking toward getting prebiotics in a soda and, saying, okay, I will shop at Whole Foods when I can afford it, but I might go to Walmart. So I think, it's just not so easy to label people and throw them into a bucket anymore. And I think that's just going to become more and more and more. We're just going to be a much more open-minded consumer base that I think is going to be super fun.
I talk about rabbit holes. I could talk about that forever because I'm so energized by kind of this shift, this non-binary and flexitarian living shift that less judgment, more, flexibility in how people make choices and make purchases and live their lives. So yes, Robyn, yes. Okay, Erika, your prediction for the future based on all the findings from the report.
Oh man, it's so hard to pick one, but I think that that's such a good one, Robyn. But I really think I think it kind of ties into that, but I really think that this whole revisualization of what it means to have general health, and it's not just, let me take a multivitamin and then I'm fine. Like consumers are so much more aware of their health and how it affects every aspect of their life. And they're really paying attention to it. And so I think that this movement from, the first thought I think of is like the sports nutrition industry, but it's not sports nutrition. It's active lifestyle nutrition, really. It's like I'm sitting in my kitchen and I was having a hydration like 5 minutes ago. I haven't sweat really that much today, but I'm still going to enjoy it. And so I think it's really just taking all of these products and making it more about general health and consumers really paying attention and really being focused on the products that they're choosing for their health and being really intentional about what they're choosing. There's a lot of products out there. It can be a little overwhelming for people. And so I think that really the opportunity here is to be able to stand apart from all of the noise and to really create and deliver value that's really important for these consumers for their new general health and for their future.
Yeah, absolutely, Erika. Well, I feel like there's a lot of promising things that both of you shared, both with where the industry is going and how consumers are making choices. So I'm feeling optimistic about the future after this, which I love that. And I want to remind everyone that we're just scratching the surface here of all of the insights in this report. And so that report is available with the link that Erika shared. The QR code, we'll also be putting it, I think it's in the chat right now and in the description here, and you can find it on the NBJ website as well. So lots of ways that you can get in there, and I highly recommend. This is one of the reports that I'm most excited about because of how comprehensive it is. And thank you both so much. We're so lucky to have you two sharing these insights and putting together this amazing report. And last call, any final questions, please throw them in the chat. We'll be checking throughout the day, and one of us will get in there and respond and make sure we have your questions answered even following the event. So thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. Keep an eye out for upcoming NBJ Lives. We'll be talking about various reports rolling out, as well as the NBJ Summit. We'll have an NBJ Live episode all about that, and so many more great things to come. So thank you all. Thanks again, Erika and Robyn, and I hope everyone has a great day.
Thanks.
Thank you.